Hello world, how are you doing? Recently, Taschen, the publishing company, had a sale on their website and I bought a few books and they've just arrived, so I thought we would have a quick look and see what I bought. This chunky package weighs about 8 kilograms, but it only contains 4 books. Just a quick note about the shipping. I'm in the UK and when I placed the order I assumed that the books would probably be sent from London, where there is a Taschen store. But instead they were sent from Germany using FedEx and went via the Netherlands before they got to me. But the delivery was free, which was a pretty good deal, although the package does look a little bit beaten up, so I'm hoping that the books are okay inside. All I've done so far is take off the address labels, and I'm going to use my dangerous looking rusty scalpel to help me get into the package. So let's do that and see what I bought. I guess most book lovers will be familiar with Taschen. They publish quite a wide range of books, including a lot of art and photography books, and that's what I've got here. First thing out is a Taschen catalogue. These are always quite good fun to flip through. And the first book out is this one, Alfred Stieglitz's Camera Work, The Complete Photographs. Second book out is Paul by Harry Benson. This is a book chronicling the life and work of Sir Paul McCartney, from his days in the Beatles to Wings to his solo career. Third book is The Rise of David Bowie by Mick Rock, which has this very cool lenticular cover, which has 3 different images. It has a little bump to the corner from shipping, but I don't think I'll worry about it. And the last book is Walter Chandoa's Cats. Walter Chandoa was a photographer who spent most of his career taking pictures of cats and dogs, and this is a retrospective of his career from 1942 to 2018, and it has a very beautiful cat on the cover. On the back it has a picture that looks like it is from the 1960s, with some people admiring a cat through the window of a pet shop. So there they all are, my 4 new books. So now I'm going to take each one out of its shrink wrap and have a look and report back. The books all seem to have arrived in reasonable condition, which is more than I can say for the packing box. Okay, first let's have a look at the Walter Chandoa book. Chandoa was born in 1920 and died in 2019. Both events happened in New Jersey. So this book spans pretty much his whole career. He was a pretty prolific photographer of all kinds of subjects, but it's his photography of animals, especially cats, that are his best known work. The text in the book is printed in 3 different languages, English, French and German, which is not uncommon for Taschen books of this type. I guess that is a bit redundant if you don't read those languages, but it also means there are more pages for photographs as well. The foreword of the book is by Chandoa himself, written in January 2019, just days before he left this world. In it, he tells the story of finding a stray kitten shivering in the snow and taking him home as a present for his wife, and starting to take photos of the cat, and then never stopping taking photos of cats for the rest of his life. The foreword is followed by an essay by the editor, but then the rest of the book is dedicated to the photographs. They seem to be approximately ordered by content rather than chronology. So for example, there are a number of pictures of adult cats and kittens together, even though they might have been taken decades apart. A lot of Chandoa's work was also used in adverts and on packaging, and those are reproduced here as well. So now we are in the age of social media, when everyone posts millions of pictures of their cats on Instagram every day and videos on YouTube. I have a channel myself where I post videos of my cats. I suppose Chandoa's work gets a little bit swamped amongst all of that, but he was a pioneer of this type of photography, and every lolcat, every Maru, every Mr. Vivo has a little bit of Chandoa's work in their ancestry, I suppose. Anyway, it's a beautiful book, and as is also common with Taschen books, it's available in 2 sizes, but this larger size really lets the photographs do their work. Second, I have this book called The Rise of David Bowie, which focuses on the years 1972 to 1973, which, as any Bowie fan would probably recognise, are the Ziggy Stardust years. The book has this interesting lenticular cover, which is very reflective and hard to capture on the camera correctly, and inside the book is mainly made up of photographs by Mick Rock. Anyone who is at all interested in rock music from the 1970s onwards has probably seen some of his work. He did photo shoots for dozens of artists and album covers from Syd Barrett and Lou Reed and Queen and many others, up to his final cover, which was Plastic Hearts by Miley Cyrus, which was his final work before he left this world in 2021. Inside, there's an introductory essay and an interview with Mick Rock, which are also translated into French and German at the end of the book. Apart from that, there's not much text. The book is divided into sections which are titled after the songs on the Ziggy Stardust album, but there are just a few quotes from the song lyrics and quotes from Mick Rock in each section. And then there are the photographs. So there are some fairly intimate pictures of Bowie backstage and doing makeup and things like that, and going about his daily life, eating unhealthy looking food on trains and things like that, and photo shoot style publicity photos. And then of course there are loads of photos of performances with Bowie wearing those wild outfits that he was known for in his glam rock period. The other members of the band are in some of the pictures as well. Of course Mick Ronson on guitar, Trevor Bolder on bass and Woody Woodmansey on drums, but Bowie is the star of course. Just one note about the book itself. There are two different types of paper used in the book. The text part is printed on this kind of pinkish paper, which feels like standard book paper and doesn't feel particularly high quality, whereas the photos are printed on much better glossy paper. It's a small point, but it does feel a bit weird. Personally, I have been fascinated with Bowie ever since I started being interested in music, so I've seen many of these pictures before, as any Bowie fan probably has, including in the very famous David Bowie Ears exhibition that was at the Victoria and Albert Museum in 2013, which I think I visited 4 times. But I'm still fascinated with Bowie, and it's nice to have all these legendary images collected together. Third, I have this book which is just called Paul, featuring the work of legendary photojournalist Harry Benson. This book was published to coincide with Sir Paul McCartney's 80th birthday in 2022. Harry Benson was born in Glasgow in 1929, and at the time of making this video he is still with us, aged 95. Since the 1960s, he has photographed countless people and events, one of the most famous being the assassination of Robert Kennedy in 1968, as he was standing right next to Kennedy when the shots were fired. In 1964, he was assigned to travel with the Beatles on their first American tour, and he worked with them, and especially Paul McCartney, from that point onwards, including as Macca formed his new band Wings, and then moved on to his solo career. And the book follows Paul as he goes through those different stages of his career. A lot of the pictures don't just feature Paul, but of course his bandmates in both the Beatles and in Wings, and also his wife Linda, who was in Wings of course, and his children. There are onstage and backstage pictures, and in the back of taxis, and going about their everyday lives and so on, including some pictures from a very star-studded party, with guests including Cher and Bob Dylan and a very young Michael Jackson. As a bass player myself, of course I kept a lookout for appearances by his Hofner violin bass that he mainly used with the Beatles, and also his Rickenbacker gets in a few pictures as well. I think to enjoy a book like this, you need to be quite a dedicated fan. Of course, as a bass player, I do kind of revere Paul McCartney, but even so, I'm not really that interested in his home life, and maybe I would have swapped those pictures for a few more pictures of the Beatles on stage or something like that. But overall, this is a fantastic record of the life of one of the most famous musicians, of the 20th and 21st centuries. And fourth and finally, I have this book, which is a collection of the photographs from Alfred Stieglitz's magazine Camera Work. Camera Work was a very well regarded photographic magazine that was published in New York and ran from 1903 to 1917, a total of 50 issues plus one special issue, and which featured many of the leading photographers of the day, including work by Stieglitz himself, but also many other American and international photographers. There is a whole range of topics: architecture, portraits, fashion, daily life. It is interesting to look at the photographs and see how style and technology changed over the magazine's run. Some of the early photos definitely share some of the characteristics of the art of the time, including Impressionism and Post-Impressionism, whereas later work, such as this picture by Paul Strand, definitely shows a more modernist style, and it's easy to see how in turn his work influenced artists like Edward Hopper. This was also a time of great societal change, and there is a contrast between more traditional and more modern lifestyles. On one page there is a picture of sheep being herded through a village, and on another, separated by less than a decade, there is a picture showing the construction of a skyscraper in New York and an aeroplane. All of the work here is in the public domain, and all of these pictures can be seen online on many sites, including the Modernist Journals Project website, which has PDF scans of the whole run of the magazine, including all of the text from the magazines, which is missing from this book. But it's still nice to have this as a physical book, and this will be a nice addition to my shelf of vintage photography and so on. The book itself is part of Taschen's Bibliotheca Universalis series, which are slightly cheaper reprints of the larger and more expensive books in their catalogue. But still, it's reasonable quality and very nice to casually flip through. There is not much text, just an introductory essay about Stieglitz and Camera Work magazine, again in English, French and German. Okay, so there are my 4 books I bought in the Taschen sale. Regarding the price, all of these books were half price or better. Before I ordered, I did compare the price on other well-known online retailers, but the Taschen price was better in each case, so I went ahead and ordered them directly from Taschen. So what did you think? Leave a comment if you want, but that's all I've got to say for now, so I will see you around.